All right, so here is a story that I promised I was going to do cover on, and this tells about the very grim and tragic fate of the late Natalie Dawkins, who was a teacher who went missing after again the Kenise Jackson thing, and yeah, sure enough, it unfortunately turned the way that many predicted it would, because she is a teacher that went missing Clarendon, I think after she had went outside because her car alarm had went off. And I believe that this was just, to me, I believe that her car alarm going off was no accident. That this was just basically the setting the stage for an ambush. Because she was obviously the target of said ambush. And what had happened was that this poor unfortunate teacher would be abducted by a group of men, and then I won't spell out what happened afterwards, but like I say, that was didn't end well for her. No, I'm not. I'm going to talk about what happened with her, but I was going to talk about the overall reaction to her fate, and which ties into again the Kenise Jackson thing. But again, after she went missing, and I'm going to commend the JCF and a lot of people in the community. Many of them went out their way to try and find her, cause many of them were who had this hope that she'd turn up alive, and unfortunately that wasn't the case. But I did see read on the news online that many of them were went to the way to try and find her. So I will give credit to the people who went out of the way for this, because usually a case when a lot of people go missing under very sinister circumstances. There are times when the authorities, I think people in the community just basically don't bat an eye and just say, nothing new. Going about your business. All right, moving on. But with this got a good amount of attention right here. And again, the one thing with Kenise Jackson, I think that does. I won't say that piggybacked off of that though, but at least there's more attention due to how shocking and sickening the Kenise Jackson thing was and unfortunately Natalie Dawkins, that story didn't end any different. But in this case, there was effort made, and I commend that. What also then happened was that one suspect, so Jeff Bedwards, who I read about afterwards, who was a piece of work in his own community, because said that and it's a typical case, this youth went astray, and apparently his parents did not do a great job. Apparently, according to the dad, that the mom, unfortunately, the case is, did not do anything to really instill discipline and moral values in this child, and he succumbed to that culture of criminality. And this unfortunate, and I'm not saying it in a way that I feel sorry for this little devil. He lost his life while going with police, because he and some other guy were in possession of a car. I think his brother, and I think some two other men were brought in later on after Bedwards went down to that Badman enclave down clave in hell. And the end result is that they did find some remains believed that to be of Natalie Dawkins. And again, they basically at this point have confirmed that it's her. And I want to say condolences to the family, because I can't imagine what they're going through right now. I would not even want to be in a situation where one of my friends, family, loved ones ends up this way, because this is such a normal occurrence that is just unfortunately it's become so normalized that when someone goes missing under very mysterious circumstances, that there's 9 times out of 10 they're not going to make it back alive, because there's just this culture again of criminality. And again, I've talked about the crime beast in the Kenise Jackson thing, that the crime beast got another blood sacrifice where Natalie Dawkins is concerned. And again, at first I didn't know this woman personally. I don't know many of these victims personally, but from what I understand, she was pretty much a stand-up decent woman, and this is someone who this was basically good at her job as a teacher and reached out to many people, and all those people who knew her and have good things to say about her. I can't imagine what you're feeling right now, and it's just sad that Jamaica has lost someone who was a valuable asset to the community, and just because of some dirtbag, dirt-sucking low lives who decided that this for whoever decided that taking her out, it was just basically business as usual. But the thing is, again, this is a culture of criminality that Jamaica has long cultivated, where you're spawning and these these demons. And the thing is that it's not last minute. These are a lot of these young men who many of them don't grow up in circumstances where they're taught moral values. And in many cases, they're so-called in the circle. They're taught that being a deviant and a low life is something to be attained rather than being a productive member of society. Because they were Jeff Bedwards, and there's nothing good to say about this little punk post-mortem. It's just very unfortunate that that kid, I think he was 20 at the time, that he again got sent back to his master in the underworld. That this is someone that if he had chosen a much better path, or had people around him that actually taught him moral values, taught him how to be a warrior, not a waste man. This is a kid that could have gone on to do something much better in his future. Just like those who were in custody, and these guys were not much older than him. Is that all of them could have been chosen better paths, and unfortunately they decided that we're going to choose paths that lead to death and death, destruction, or incarceration. Because that's usually how this ends for a lot of these criminals. That they, many of them don't live to grow old, or if any of them do manage to live beyond going out to their teenage years, that many of them end up going back behind bars, and in many cases, if you know what goes on in prisons in Jamaica, there's a fate worse than death. Trust me on that one. But the thing is, as I said, though, is that this is ties back to Jamaica's culture of criminality. Because as I said, Jeff Bedros, apparently his folks failed him, just like I'm sure the folks or people around these guys who are in custody, their communities failed them. And yeah, I'm just saying that just for those who are saying, oh, if these guys had better economic opportunities, that these people would have walked on the path of angels. No, that is not a guarantee. That just means that there's a probability that they would have gone to side of angels if they had economic opportunities. But if they don't have the mindset for moral values, even if they get opportunities, they're still going to be criminals. So, and that's the thing that many of us refuse to address when it comes to Jamaica. That we refuse to address this culture of criminality, the culture of non-accountability, and many other backward vices that refuse technology that exist. But the thing I was going to get to Natalie Dawkins on for is that the thing is that, and I said this before, and I predicted this, and this is not a good thing. She was not going to get the same kind of attention that Kenise Jackson got. Because I've said more than once, Kenise Jackson should have been the start of a new chapter in Jamaica, where we're going to start. That Kenise Jackson should have been had the George Floyd effect on the Jamaican psyche, where everybody was sense and a moral backbone. I mean, people who have been asleep more spiritually for so long. Many of them should have been awake and said, enough is enough. We're going to start cleaning house day by day. All of these people who are harming, terrorizing innocent civilians, especially women, all of them are going to get the fear of God instilled into them. That they're going to start cleaning out all of these areas, all of these enclaves that allow devilish people like this, like Jeff Bedwards or Robert Fowlers and all these other aberrations in human guise to thrive and victimize people. These people in the long run are what's going to start getting their moment. And again, I pretend Jamaica did not do anything. We just used Kenise Jackson as a photo op. With Natalie Dawkins, and I've said this before, is that Natalie Dawkins, they didn't give Natalie Dawkins that same consideration. I do credit that people went to it to try and locate this woman and return her safely. I'll give them credit in that instant. What I'm not giving them credit for is the fact that you're not hearing a lot of these MPs. Yeah, you heard the Prime Minister gave this PR statement. That's what he does best. You're not hearing all of these human rights groups. You're not hearing the churches. You're not hearing certain of these female MPs like Babsy Grange and all of those people. You're not hearing all these celebrities. None of them had that same amount of energy for Natalie Dawkins. And you know why? And I'm going to go there. Natalie Dawkins, unlike Kenise Jackson, she's not considered the standard of beauty in Jamaicans' eyes. And yeah, Natalie Dawkins, okay, she's an attractive older woman. I'm not going to disparage this woman's looks, but compared to Kenise Jackson, she's not seen as pretty or as attractive or eye candy like Kenise Jackson is. Because Kenise Jackson is a young, pretty brown girl. All right, whereas Natalie Dawkins is a much older, heavy darker woman, and she's not really a photo op where they're concerned. So they're not even going to. And bear in mind, most of the Jamaicans don't really give a damn about either of these women post mortem. But at least with Kenise Jackson, they could pretend that okay, we're deeply troubled by this bad this girl. 'Cause again, this is someone who's eye candy, and for the people, family members of Kenise, friends of Kenise Jackson or boyfriend, all of them who realize all of them should be very insulted about that you're just reducing this dead girl to just being eye candy, because you're not really going to make her death be the start of a new day in Jamaica, that we're going to really start pushing back against this culture of this sickening devilish underculture we have in Jamaica. And Natalie Dawkins, they just didn't say nothing we can really do with her. We can't really. We're not even going to pretend that this woman's death means anything to us, because again, you're not seeing the same imagery. Just like with these other women afterwards who were being murdered, killed, gone missing after the fact. Yeah, they're not even saying a peep about these other women whatsoever. And again, and I predicted that, and many others predicted that this is going to be just going to that she's just going to be an open and shut case, and we're just going to move on to something else, whatever. And this is an insult to Natalie Dawkins' memory as well, because both her and Kenise Jackson share similar fates, though. Like both of these women who could have apparently had led productive, positive lives, they basically were cut down by these vicious savages. And the only good thing I can say with both of these women's cases is that there's been justice. Like, or Kenise Jackson's murder, Robert Fowler, has been caught and incarcerated. It remains seen to what kind of sentence he's going to get, of course, because I'm not really popping the champagne to see until I see what kind of sentence he gets. And with Natalie Dawkins, one of her parent killers has basically gone back to his master in the underworld. And I know it's a waste that that kid could have gone on, chose a much different and better path. And also these two other suspects they have, they basically it remains to see what sentences they've got, even though they've confessed. Fortunately, I mean, I'm giving them credit in the fact that these there's been some sort of justice with these two women. Although I'm waiting to see what kind of sentences their murderers get before I really start saying that start cause saying that this is some sort of victory for moral virtues. I'm just waiting to see how that turns out, of course. But I could do something about Natalie Dawkins. Yeah, cause people at this point have forgotten about her. This kid, her interest, what minimal interest they had in her case has declined by now. They've gone on to the next thing at this moment. But the thing is that for Jamaicans who have moral virtue, we don't really close the cases on people like this though, because even if after a while, sometime this year or whatever, we have to still bring up Natalie Dawkins, just like we bring up Kenise Jackson, just like we bring up all these other victims of who have been cut down and murdered. Because this, and again, Kenise Jackson, particular, she should have been a case start of us really starting to take things more seriously when it comes to crime, and not just pretend, not just be in active denial or choosing to hit the snooze button, and pretend that none of this it exists. We're way beyond that, people. We were way beyond that. We should have been way beyond that decades ago, but unfortunately, many of us still aren't getting it, and I fortunately don't want to be among those numbers of people who are still in chronic denial. Cause, and this is why we have to do something about Natalie Dawkins, cause this is a woman again who did, from what I'm understanding, I didn't know her personally. She did a lot of good in her community, and her life was cut down. And yeah, there is suspicion about why she was killed, cause one is saying it's robbery, that they just want to take her car. Others are primarily saying that okay, she thought that she was a bailiff and she was involved in some legal cases, that maybe this was either she had something to do with someone close to these suspects, or maybe or maybe someone who she had made an enemy of as a bailiff sent these guys to kill her and make it look like as a contract killing, and then make it look like it was a robbery. Those are the possible motives, but in any case, though, it's just that we have to whatever the truth happens to be, as I mean to say, we still have to talk about people like Natalie Dawkins, because again, as I said, they're going to after Kenisa Jackson is that there are going to be more victims after that, because that crime beast, or I mean the crime devil, is not going to stop. He's never going to be satisfied until he gets more blood sacrifices, and unfortunately, Natalie Dawkins post-mortem after that became another sacrifice, just like these other women and these other individuals. Because again, I'm not going to leave out the men who are victims as well, and we shouldn't as well. But anyways, I have to say about Natalie Dawkins. Didn't know this woman. I know what she represented, symbolized, and I don't like what the outcome was. And we are in the long run, we have to make sure that there are less Natalie Dawkins, less Kenisa Jacksons, if Jamaica really want, but again, it takes more and more Jamaican people finally waking up. All right, because we should have as said, we should have waken up a long time ago. And that's how I conclude this recording. So this was Stay to Jamaica in the Caribbean. Check out my YouTube pages, Miles Goose and Farron, Miles J Productions, Real Thoughts and Miles. Peace out.